Hey, this is Scott of photography.banzai.com. Today I want to talk about focus modes with the camera. So I have a Pentax K-5 here. In the back, it has a dial to select your autofocus mode, which is based on the points inside here that you can see flashed as it picks a focal point. In this case, there are 11 focus points in this camera that you can select from. But you have single point autofocus, which uses the center point, and then you have a selectable mode, selectable, and an automatic mode. Also, that is important is this little dial on the side, which is the autofocus function where it focuses once, or it has continuous focus, or then you can of course select manual focus with that dial. Of course, not all cameras have that level of control right on the body. You might have to go into the menu and change what you're doing, but what I use is the single point focus right at the top, and then I recompose. So like this, and then I change slightly so I can get the proper framing and all that. And previously, probably a few years ago, I used the selectable point mode quite often. Then you use your controls here or some other type of joystick or something that the camera has to select which point inside the configuration of points that you see in your viewfinder. That's a good way to do it in some aspects, but one problem is that the autofocus points besides the center one, depending on the camera, aren't as sensitive or don't have certain vertical or horizontal sensing capabilities as usually the main central point has. So I prefer that center point. It's generally better and more reliable than the other ones. You can also select the automatic mode to let the camera decide what you want. That is good when you change the camera to continuous autofocus. You're trying to get some type of action in the photo. You want the continuous mode, and you probably want to use some type of automatic point selection. If you use the central point, your photos will be pretty bland because you'll be focusing with that central point, and you just won't get any interest. You won't get the rule of thirds look or anything like that unless you crop it, which I guess you could technically crop the photo to make it more interesting. But I would prefer to let the camera pick the points in that situation. In the case of the K-5, you can select the number of points. Let's see if I can get it. It's too bright, but you can select the number of points from 11 or 5, which it automatically uses 5 points. That's a lot better in the situation of the continuous autofocus instead of the full 11 points that use some side points. You've got the 9 in the center and then 2 side ones that are less sensitive than the central ones. But that's about it for that. Like I said, I use the center point focus and recompose. I think it works well. I don't have too many issues with slight changes. When you're focusing, you probably don't want to move forward or backward, but if you do some slight changes and try to keep this area of the camera in the same position but changed like that. So that's just a simple overview of focal points and the focus system in DSLR cameras.